I have feelings for Chloe. About Chloe. I have feelings about Chloe, okay? Life is Strange Double Exposure is coming out in October, and we have some unanswered questions about our blue-haired friend Chloe, don't we?
That impish look scares me.
Now, there have been a lot of theories going around about, is she coming back? There's no canon ending. How is that going to work if she's alive or not alive, and what's going to happen? So I want to put all my thoughts on the table here. See if you agree, disagree. I'm very curious to get this conversation started or keep it going. I'm sure you've been having it many other places. But overall, it is extremely complex. I mean, everything from what the studio needs to what's possible in development to what makes sense in story to keeping true to the original to giving fans what they want. It's just complex. And I've got a lot of feelings about Chloe.
Is this nervousness? Is that what this feeling is?
If you're new to this channel, my focus here is on story-based and choice-based games. But my biggest focus is tracking and understanding every consequence that you can get by making a single choice in these games. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you're definitely going to want to for when Life is Strange Double Exposure comes out. This is going to be a busy year for Google Sheets and flowcharts. Okay, back to Chloe. Do I think that Chloe is going to return? Simple answer, yes. That's not enough? Okay. More complicated answer, let's dig in.
After all, I'm still your faithful companion.
Yes, you are.
In my opinion, there are 3 things that completely prove Chloe will be back in some way based on what we saw in the reveal trailer. You probably have seen these already, but we got to start here. And I want to explain my thoughts as to why they're important too. First of all, we see a photo of her, we assume, relatively early in the game. We know that Max keeps it in their wallet.
Is this about the blue-haired girl whose picture you keep in your wallet?
Some people are thinking that maybe you only see this particular scene if you made certain choices in the ending of Life is Strange 1, but I definitely don't think so. Everybody has to have seen this scene. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen it in the reveal trailer because that would definitely piss people off. And sure, you could say that could just be in the story, just, you know, to give a nod to the past and to, you know, humor fans that are curious or whatever. But there's too much emotion in this scene to be just that. And the key is that emotion is needed in order to carry the story arc, to either help people that have never played the game understand the relationship between Max and Chloe, or to remind fans, as if we needed a reminder, just how strong their connection is.
You are my #1 priority now. You are all that matters to me.
It's a classic story arc. Why would this be here if it wasn't crucial to the story in some way? Okay, the second thing is that Safi asks about the photo.
The girl with the blue hair. What's the deal with you two?
What would be the point of defining what your relationship is in this initial question with Safi if there wasn't going to be more to it? Developers aren't going to go out of their way to create additional complexity within the code for just the sake of doing it. Like, there has to be a reason. Maybe the reason is a red herring, but I think that would be super angering to fans if that's all there was. So I don't think they would do that. I think they respect the fan base too much to do that. And I know a lot of people are upset about those 2 different choices. It's like, no, we were way more than high school sweethearts. We were not just friends. We were soulmates. And like, there's a lot of feelings about that. And I get that. What I'd like to introduce, Max is trying to put the past behind her. She's close with Safi, but in terms of her past, it's a little bit surface.
One of these days, I'm going to find out what you're running from, Max Caulfield.
When doing that, it's just realistic to just sort of like categorize it simply to someone else, to just say we were this or we were this, just to like end the conversation. You know, she seems uncomfortable a little bit about digging into that.
You snooped in my wallet?
Stop deflecting.
So I think those 2 categories actually make sense here. Does Max actually feel that way? Probably not, because she's staring at the photo when she's alone. Like, you can sense that she's having deep feelings about the situation, whatever that situation is. Just because you say something to someone in that way does not mean that encompasses the intensity that surrounded your relationship. So I think like any feelings about that choice, just imagine yourself in that situation that Max is in. And I think anybody would do that. You wouldn't just be like, oh my God, she was my soulmate and like, you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, we dated, you know, like that's what you would do. And then like maybe as you got to know someone deeper, you would talk more about it. So yeah. But the third thing, in my opinion, is beyond any doubt proof that Chloe will have some sort of significant presence in the sequel. If you look at the bulletin board, you got to zoom in really close and get like the exact frame. It says Chloe number 2 here. What does that mean? So there's something related to photos and Chloe. And there's also a word here that's too blurry to read. And there are a few ideas out there of what this word translates to, but those all think that the word starts with 2 O's. When I was doctoring the image, the first letters look very close to the CH in Chloe instead of an O. It's really hard to tell though, so I jumped into ChatGPT to see if it could help identify the words, see if there was like any combination of letters these could possibly be. I thought it was extremely helpful until I cross-checked and found out it was making up half of the suggestions or interpreting the meanings completely wrong just based on what it scraped on the internet. Of course, I tried Google Translate, which is not a reliable tool, truly, but I thought it could generate more ideas at least. I definitely found interesting things doing that, including the original idea that's out there. I had a whole video mapped out to talk about this and the process and what I think the translations are, but ultimately I felt really uncomfortable speaking about languages I know nothing about. I might say something that was offensive to a culture, and I actually even found a word in a translation that was very offensive in a particular culture. Ultimately, I just didn't want to rely on generative tools to try to speak to something authoritatively that I know nothing about. So maybe these B-roll clips will inspire you to find something. But in general, what is this Chloe number 2? So there's a number 1. There's probably a number 3. I also want to point out that this photo kind of resembles the doe in Life is Strange 1.
I feel like the doe is leading me.
But the ears are downward and the body is slightly different. To me, it resembles a dog more. But it gives the same vibe of the doe being Rachel Amber guiding Max along the way.
That looks exactly like the same doe from my tornado vision.
And dogs in general symbolize loyalty, companionship. They can have really strong senses and be able to sniff out clues and things like that. So it's really interesting. It kind of very much fits into who Chloe could be for Max.
You're the mysterious superhero. I'll be your faithful chauffeur and companion.
To me, this is definitive proof Chloe will be involved in this game in some way, which is aligned with early leaks of this game.
Chloe, I'm just glad we're here together.
So part of the early leaks in this game, a lot of them came true, pretty close to what it said, except we don't have confirmation about Chloe. Originally, the first leak said something about Max and Chloe being together. The second leak said that Chloe could make an appearance if you kept her alive. And the third leak said that it followed the timeline where Chloe died. And I don't know, that could have just been an interpretation of what was happening. I mean, just keep in mind, these leaks were either word of mouth or they were from a survey that showed people curated game content. So it's very possible only portions of the story were revealed, or it wasn't fully worked out yet when people heard these things or experienced these things. The second leak did say that the second half of the game wasn't great. So it's very realistic and normal for stories to get full rewrites. Maybe in the survey testing, they realized people didn't want to follow the one certain timeline. So they changed it or something, who knows? But because of how accurate things have been before, I do think there's got to be an element of truth to that in some way. Now, I think we do need to get real about some things, and this is going to be a bit of a hot take. So I'm avoiding saying it too early. Oh, the hate is going to come. Before we get to that, I want to kind of talk about how I think they will handle the 2 different Life is Strange 1 endings and how that will play out in Double Exposure. Just thinking about development, the amount of code it would take to basically completely write 2 different games based on 2 different choices is just not realistic. And if they did that, that would blow me away. Well, let me be clear. If they did that well, it would blow me away. And I think it would be really hard to do that because it's essentially making 2 completely different games. To be honest, I don't think this is a very exciting answer. I think it's going to be handled very similar to the way that they did this with Steph in Wavelengths. She was experiencing trauma no matter what. And so the setup, cutscenes or the questions that are asked or things like that the setup is all going to be the same. And then the reaction is going to be slightly different depending on which ending you chose.
It's just like any other day.
So, for example, if Safi does have a follow-up question like what happened to her, or what happened to Chloe or whatever, like the answer could be we drifted apart or she died. Like that simplifies it, I know. It simplifies it, I know. I think it could just be that small of a reaction. But again, the setup, the question's the same. Maybe there's stuff in the journal about loss in general. And then there's a few lines about the loss of Chloe or the loss of a town, or maybe there's going to be like guilt, shame feelings about the power and things like that. And the result's going to be a few lines that are different here and there. Just thinking about the development time and the payoff, I don't think it would make sense to do anything more than that. This new story, Double Exposure, stands on its own, regardless what happened with Arcadia Bay. Now, I have some theories that kind of changed my perspective on what I just said, but I'm just like, how much do I say right now? I don't think those theories changed truly what I'm saying. I think the ending of this would be similar regardless of what happened to Arcadia Bay. Yep, I do. I just figured that out in real time. Also, like, the meaning behind things will be different. If you had a whole playthrough of the whole game where you're like, I was in a relationship with Chloe and she died, all of the things that are like kind of happening have this tone based on Max's past. If you played a game where like you were friends and you just drifted apart, like that's a different experience, no matter what the actions and the situations that happen in Double Exposure are. So I don't think those endings themselves will change the gameplay itself. Small things here and there. Now, how do I think Chloe will show up?
Max? Chloe?
I think there are some theories here. I think all of them are possible. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are possible.
Max, do you know how awesome this is? I get my best friend back and she's also supersized.
Overall, I think there are 3 types of ways that Chloe could come back. First of all, the most boring one, I think on the base level, similar to what I said with the ending, it could be very similar to that. Like that's just like the simplest way, probably the most disappointing way to fans, but like Chloe shows up in text messages here and there. Maybe you get to, if you have a good relationship, maybe you get to talk about things here and there. Maybe there's different journal entries depending on your relationship status or if she's alive or feels weird to say dead, or gone. That's the easy way that she's going to show up. And actually, I think we're going to see stuff like that no matter what, if she comes back fully or not. I think it's going to be more than that, though. I do. I think it's going to be more. The second type is that Chloe will be there, but not really there. So, for example, in dreams or apparitions or memories or things like that.
That sure didn't feel like a dream.
That could work if Chloe's alive or gone. Could just be like the essence of Chloe is there, like her memories of her, like what she wants. Is that all I want her to be in? No. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The third type is that something supernatural brings Chloe back or brings Max to Chloe in some way.
Chloe, you're back.
This is the one that everybody wants, is that Chloe's actually there and you are like actively working with her to solve a mystery.
I'm so glad you're here.
And truly the only way I think this could work if she actually came back in some way is if the results were similar, whether she was alive or gone at the end of your Life is Strange 1 choices. But just overall, I think something supernatural has to bring her back in some way. I don't think it could be like 2 different situations in any way. It would just be too difficult for code. And I'm thinking of 2 different ways that they could do this. I'm sure there's more, but here's the 2 I'm thinking of. What if shift and pulse aren't her only powers and she's able to regain the shifting into the photo power?
What is happening now?
I mean, I think it would be an evolution of this power, not the same exact one. I don't know if it's photo memories, but I think there might be some sort of like shifting into the photos, or maybe there's communication through photos or something. And that could explain the Chloe #2 photo. So, Chloe's communicating through these photos in some way. And I think there's many, many, many different ways that could be. I'll leave that up to your imagination. And it even leads into the second way that I think that Chloe could come back. And that's if Max opens a timeline where Chloe exists in some way, allowing a version of Chloe to cross over and interact with Max. That is what I think that is. Okay, we're getting to my theory, not the hot take, but we're getting to my theory. I don't want to talk about too much if it actually is, because then it will be less of a surprise and it won't be as exciting, but I think it still would be exciting if that actually happened. The two I feel like that's it. And I also think the ending choice, I feel like it's gonna be like that.
Amazeballs. I've literally just got chills all over my neck.
It allows the same development to happen. It allows the same writing to happen regardless. If that theory actually happens and Chloe comes back, how would Chloe feel about the love interest? Because Chloe's jealous, let's be honest.
Whatever.
Like, what if you get close to Amanda and then Chloe gets like really jealous and like throws something through the time veil? Okay, here's the hot take. We need to talk. We need to talk some reality about. I'm literally scared to say this. I really am. Like, I'm serious. I don't have any opinion. I'll start here. About Chloe and Max being soulmates. I don't care if they are or not. Oh God. Careful with the comments. Wait till I finish. That can go either way, whether you believe it or not, in my opinion. If let's say they are total soulmates and they are so good together and all of this, it doesn't mean that they need to be together right now. Okay, so, oh man, this is so hard to get out. So rewind. Forget everything I said.
I did it.
Let's think about like a classic example. You have, we're going to say high school sweetheart. Okay. You're together you're the only thing each other knows in a relationship. Okay. Just like not thinking of Chloe and Max, thinking about just like some standard, like a TV drama. And then, you realize that you're both growing and changing in different ways. Maybe not that you don't belong together, but like you need to find yourself and figure out who you are separate from each other, because if you stay together, there's not going to be as much growth. So there needs to be separation in order to like discover who you are. And then if you do make sense still together, like if you love someone, you let them go kind of thing, right? I think that is a very important thing for everyone to do. So let's say they were high school sweethearts and they drifted, and Chloe's alive and they drifted apart. Great. They need, like, Max needs that time to like be alone and discover and take these photos and become who she is. They come together and maybe they're like, yes. Like, who's Chloe going to be after that time? Like, Chloe needs that. Like, yes, Max needs that, but Chloe needs that too. Like, yes. Like, it makes me excited for them that they had time apart if they're going to be together in the end. Okay. But also, maybe they won't be right for each other. And maybe they just are like, wow, we meant so much to each other. You are the most important person to me in my life. I'm like getting teary, but we don't need to like be dating. Like that's a beautiful thing.
Wherever I end up after this, in whatever reality, all those moments between us were real, and they'll always be ours, no matter what you choose.
Or maybe it's like, yeah, let's get freaky right now. Let's do it right now. That's the ending choice. If Chloe does come back, I think it's important to think about not our attachment to who we were personally as people when we met these characters, and the attachment that has been built up for so many years, like 10 years almost, for people that started playing it from the beginning. And think about it like in a real situation. I think this story is just going to be mostly about Max's healing journey and how she needs to heal with the trauma regardless of where things end up with Chloe, Chloe's a big part of that trauma no matter what. And I think they're going to work together in some way to heal that trauma. I'm so nervous for the creators of this game and for Don't Nod too, to like have disappointed fans if like it doesn't get a perfect ending with Chloe and Max dating or something. Like, I just think that's so cheap. Yay, they're reunited and they love each other. And oh my God, I want to honor the story more. I want there to be more power here. I want there to be more depth. I want there to be more complexity than that. I don't want it to be as simple as Max is back and they're in love and oh my God, everything's perfect. That's boring to me. These games are about complex choices, complex feelings, complex emotions, and like, what would you do if kind of things. It's not about like fantasy endings. That's never what Life is Strange is about, ever. Why would we expect it to be here? And I would be disappointed if that's what happened. And I have feelings about Chloe completely. Like, there is such a part of me that wants them to be together, of course, and like embrace in that kiss. But if that happens, it needs to be well done, and it can't be cheap. It can't be cheap. If you have thoughts, I want to hear your thoughts. We don't need to argue and disagree, and there's no need to get like mad about any of this stuff. It's a conversation, you know? So let's talk. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I'm so nervous.